The day begins before sunrise. You stir in the dimness of a small mud brick house. Its walls, the color of baked earth, hold the night's coolness a little longer. The air smells faintly of dust and grain. Outside, the first soft sounds of life begin. The bray of a donkey, the creak of a wooden wheel, the murmur of voices greeting the day. You push aside a simple linen cloth and step out into the open courtyard. The horizon glows a pale gold as the sun prepares to rise. The Nile glistens nearby, a steady ribbon of water winding through the desert, the lifeline of everything you know. For most Egyptians, life revolved around this river. Its annual flood was both a promise and a threat. Too little, and hunger followed. Too much, and the waters swallowed the fields. The people called the fertile black soil left behind Kemet, meaning the black land for its richness. Beyond it stretched the Deshret, the red land, barren desert, shimmering under the sun. As a farmer, your life depends on the rhythm of the river. The flooding months are times of waiting and preparation. When the waters recede, the land is soft and dark, ready for planting. You and your neighbors guide oxen through the fields, using wooden plows tied with ropes of twisted papyrus. The plow bites the soil slowly, the oxen snorting softly as you steer. The air grows warm. Your bare feet press into the cool mud, and the scent of damp earth fills your nose. You scatter seeds of barley and emmer wheat by hand, letting them fall like rain. Later, when the crops rise, you'll harvest them with small flint sickles, each curved blade glinting in the sunlight. This work is endless and repetitive, but familiar. The rhythm of it has changed little over centuries. There is comfort in the sameness. When the sun climbs higher, you return home for a meal. Bread, coarse and filling, baked in clay ovens that darken the courtyard walls with soot. A jar of beer, thick and sweet, brewed from leftover grain. Perhaps an onion or two, or a few dried fish. Luxuries are rare, simplicity is constant. Life is labor, but also devotion. Every task carries a quiet acknowledgement of the gods. You offer a pinch of flour to Hathor, goddess of motherhood and joy. You whisper a prayer to Hapi, the god of the Nile's flood, asking for gentle waters next year. The gods are everywhere, woven into the fabric of daily life like threads in linen. Children run barefoot through the alleys, laughing. They wear little more than amulets to ward off evil spirits. Their mothers grind grain on stone slabs, the steady scrape echoing like a slow heartbeat. Older men repair fishing nets by the riverbank. Even the dead are part of the rhythm. Small shrines sit in every home, where offerings of bread and incense are made to ancestors whose spirits, it is believed, watch and guide. Inside your house, the air is dim. Light filters through small windows near the roof. The walls are decorated with simple images, lotus flowers, birds, maybe a painted cat. In one corner, a low bed of reeds waits for the evening. You share it with your family. Comfort is not expected, but rest is earned. When the workday ends, the village gathers. The sound of a flute drifts on the breeze. Someone tells stories of the gods, of Osiris, who ruled the afterlife, of Isis, who restored him, of Ra, who sailed across the sky each day and descended into the underworld each night. These tales are old, older than any memory, yet still alive in the quiet voices that repeat them. The night air cools. The stars sharpen above, bright and infinite. You look toward the west, the land of the dead, where the sun sinks and souls journey beyond the horizon. Someday, you will join them, wrapped in linen, your name written on a small shard of pottery. But for now, you live. You rise and work, eat and pray, sleep and wake again. The same as your parents did, the same as their parents, and theirs before them. There is peace in the repetition, a slow rhythm to the days, measured by the Nile's flow, the sun's heat, and the whisper of the wind over the fields. Perhaps, lying back on your woven mat, you hear that wind now. You close your eyes, and in the gentle dark of your home, you drift, half awake, half dreaming, beneath the ancient Egyptian sky. The years pass, dynasties shift, temples rise and crumble, and yet the Nile flows on, unchanged, eternal. In this timeless land, where the gods are many and the rituals endless, one man dares to imagine something entirely different. A single god, a single light, a single truth. His name is Akhenaten, though he was not always called that. He was born Amenhotep V, a prince of the great 18th dynasty. His father Amenhotep III ruled over one of Egypt's most prosperous and confident ages. The temples of Thebes shone with gold. Priests of Amen, the hidden god, held vast wealth and influence. Art, architecture, and ceremony had reached dazzling heights. Into this world of certainty, the young prince was born fragile, introspective, and unusually thoughtful. His features, narrow face, long neck, full lips, would later be immortalized in statues that seemed almost otherworldly. Even in his youth, he appeared different. When his father died, Amenhotep V became pharaoh. At first he followed tradition, building temples to Amen, honoring the pantheon of gods. But slowly, something shifted. He began to speak of a new god, Atenai, the radiant sun disk. Not the sun as a deity among many, but as the divine presence itself, the source of life, warmth, and truth. The old gods, he decided, were shadows. Their temples stifled the spirit of Egypt. The priests had become too powerful, too political, so the pharaoh acted. In his 5th year of rule, Amenhotep IV changed his name to Akhenaten, meaning he who is beneficial to the Atenai. He declared that all of Egypt would now worship only Otini. Temples to other gods were closed. Their names were chiseled out of stone. The great city of Thebes, with its sprawling temples to Amen, was abandoned as the capital. And then, as if in a dream, Akhenaten ordered a new city to be built. A city from nothing, in the middle of the desert. He called it Akhenaten, the horizon of the Otini. Imagine it taking shape before your eyes. The sun rises over pale cliffs. Workers carve stone, haul mud brick, and lay out wide, straight streets. No shadows here. Only open courtyards, columns bathed in light, and temples without roofs, so that Adin's rays could fall directly upon the offerings below. This was not the Egypt of your ancestors. It was something new. A city of light, open to the heavens. And in the center of it all stood the royal family, Akhenaten, his queen Nefertiti, and their daughters. You can picture them in the art of the time, elongated, gentle, strangely intimate, the king and queen cradling their children under the spreading rays of Atenai, each ray ending in a tiny hand that offers the sign of life. In these carvings, Akhenaten appears not as a distant god-king, but as a husband and father. The art is fluid, almost tender. Faces are softened, bodies imperfect, real. Even animals are shown with affection. A horse nuzzling its foal, a cat curled beside a chair. It is as if the whole world has exhaled, allowed itself to be human again. But outside Akhenaten's shining walls, discontent brews. The priests of Amen, stripped of power and wealth, whisper rebellion. Merchants grumble as trade routes falter. Soldiers question the absence of the old gods who once guided them in war. Akhenaten remains calm. He spends his days composing hymns to Atenai, songs of praise that speak of light, of life, of warmth spreading across the world. One of these hymns still survives, carved into stone, its words still legible after more than 3,000 years. He writes, "When you rise, all hearts live. When you set, they die. You are life itself, O living Atenai." It is poetry, it is devotion, but it is also isolation, because while Akhenaten gazes toward the sun, his empire begins to crumble in the shadows. Beyond Egypt's borders, foreign kings plead for help against invaders. Letters, written on clay tablets, arrive begging for gold, for soldiers, for support. The archives of Amara, his city, preserve these desperate words. Most go unanswered. Within Egypt, the people struggle. The temples of Amen, once centers of charity and stability, stand silent. Grain is hoarded, famine spreads. The old gods, it seems, have turned away. Years pass in this fragile light. Akhenaten's ideals grow purer, even as his kingdom weakens. He is convinced that Adin's rays alone will sustain Egypt, but one by one his followers begin to die, their names fading from memory. And then, as quietly as it began, it ends. Akhenaten dies, perhaps from illness, perhaps from despair. His body, once laid in the royal tomb of Akhenaten, is later moved, hidden, or lost. History cannot say. In the years that follow, his city is abandoned. The wind fills its streets with sand. The old gods return. The priests of Amen reclaim their temples. His name is erased from monuments, struck out of the royal lists. Even his son, the young Tutankhamun, changes his name to Tutankhamun, returning the kingdom to the old faith. For centuries, Akhenaten's dream vanishes into dust. But some part of it, his belief in a single light that touches all life, remains quietly luminous. Today, archaeologists walk the silent ruins of Amara, tracing the outlines of homes and palaces. They find fragments of pottery, broken statues and shards of painted walls. And in those fragments Akhenaten lives again, a man who sought truth in the brightness of the sun, and found only the shadows of history waiting for him. As the last rays of Athene sink behind the cliffs, the air cools, the desert grows still, the light softens to gold, then fades entirely. In the quiet, you can almost hear the whisper of wind through empty corridors, carrying the echo of a hymn. When you rise, all hearts live. And as that faint sound lingers, we move onward, further beneath the sands, toward the mysteries that time has buried deep. The air grows cooler as evening settles over the desert. The horizon glows faintly pink, then dims to grey. And in that soft quiet, the land seems to breathe, slow, ancient, and full of secrets. Beneath your feet, just under the shifting surface of the sand, lies a hidden world. A world of tombs, statues, and silent chambers. The living walk above, but below, Egypt still dreams. This is the Valley of the Kings, the resting place of pharaohs and nobles, carved deep into the limestone hills on the west bank of the Nile. To the ancients, the West was sacred. It was the land of the setting sun, the land of the dead. Each evening, as the sun descended beyond the horizon, they believed it traveled through the underworld, only to rise again, renewed. So too, they hoped, would the souls of the departed. Imagine yourself standing there. The wind hums softly through the valley, brushing against your face. The ground beneath you is pale and dry, scattered with shards of pottery and the footprints of long-dead workers. Once, this place was alive with sound, the ring of chisels, the low murmur of laborers carving through stone by the flickering light of oil lamps. Inside those tunnels, men toiled for years, carving passageways that wound deep into the hills. Each wall was painted with bright images, blue skies, golden suns, scarlet gods, scenes meant to guide the soul through the perilous journey of the afterlife. Spells from the Book of the Dead lined the corridors, promising protection and rebirth. To work in the valley was an honor, but also a burden. These men carried secrets they could never share. Once the tomb was sealed, so too were their voices, lost to the silence of eternity. Over thousands of years, sand and time covered these tombs. Dynasties fell, the desert reclaimed its own, and the secrets beneath lay hidden. For centuries, travelers wandered across this land, without realizing they were walking atop the resting places of kings. It was not until the modern age that the sands began to give up their mysteries again. The year was, after years of searching, an English archaeologist named Howard Carter stood once more in the Valley of the Kings. Many believed the place had already given up all it had to offer, but Carter was patient, methodical, obsessed. And then, one morning in November, his workers uncovered the first step of a hidden stairway, half buried, cut deep into the rock. They followed it down, brushing away sand grain by grain, until they reached a sealed doorway. Stamped into the plaster was an oval cartouche, containing the name of a long-forgotten boy king, Tutankhamun. When Carter finally peered through the small hole he made in the door, his candle flickered, and he saw gold everywhere, the glint of gold. Later, he would describe the sight in calm wonder, saying simply, "Yes, wonderful things." Behind that door lay treasures that had slept undisturbed for over 3,000 years, a chariot, chairs of ebony and ivory, dazzling jewelry, and deep within the final chamber, nestled inside a series of gilded shrines, rested the coffin and mask of the young pharaoh himself. Tutankhamun's tomb was small compared to others. He had ruled only briefly, yet its preservation made it a portal into another age, an age of faith, artistry, and extraordinary craftsmanship. As Carter and his team carefully recorded each artifact, the world's imagination was captured. Newspapers called it the discovery of the century. The phrase "the curse of the pharaohs" soon followed. Stories of strange illnesses and untimely deaths among those who entered the tomb. But behind the myth was something quieter and far more meaningful. A reminder that Egypt's history was not gone, only waiting. And so, excavation after excavation continued in the desert heat, Archaeologists brushed away centuries of sand to reveal new secrets. Tiny amulets buried with commoners, painted coffins of priests and singers, entire workmen's villages preserved in dust. Each find added another heartbeat to a civilization long thought silent. Even now, the sands still hold mysteries. In recent years, ground-penetrating radar has hinted at hidden chambers near Tutankhamun's tomb, empty corridors perhaps, or forgotten rooms where other royals may rest. No one yet knows for certain. The sand keeps its counsel, and beyond the valley, across Egypt's vast deserts, countless ruins sleep beneath dunes and stone. Entire cities, once alive with voices and music, now silent as the stars above them. The wind sighs through their remains, smoothing their edges, burying their names, but even in their silence, these places speak through fragments of pottery, through inscriptions carved by hands long gone. They remind us that time does not destroy everything, it only hides. You imagine yourself standing again in the valley, the last light of the sun slipping behind the cliffs. The air grows still, the desert seems endless, but beneath it the past is waiting, layer upon layer, life upon life, all folded gently into the earth. Somewhere far below, a golden mask still lies beneath stone, eyes closed serene. The pharaohs sleep, but they are never entirely gone. Not while the Nile still flows, not while the sands still whisper. As night deepens, we rise again, leaving the tombs to their stillness. Ahead lies the shimmer of another Egypt, the world of perfume and marble, of laughter and intrigue, of palaces beside the sea. For there, centuries after the pharaohs, another queen waits. Her name is Cleopatra. The world grows warmer again. The smell of salt returns to the air, and in the distance, waves strike marble walls. We are no longer in the desert. The sand has turned to shining white stone, the cliffs to colonnades. This is Alexandria, the city of light, of learning, of desire. The year is... You stand at the edge of Cleopatra's palace, where the Mediterranean laps gently against the foundation stones. Above you rises the palace itself, vast, adorned with gold-tipped columns, painted ceilings, and gardens that spill over with palm and myrtle. The sea breeze carries the faint scent of frankincense and jasmine. Somewhere inside, musicians play the lyre. The notes drift like perfume. Cleopatra VII Philopator, the last pharaoh of Egypt, sits within those marble walls. But the world knows her differently. To the Romans, she was a seductress, a sorceress, a queen who dared to defy an empire. To her own people, she was a goddess reborn, the living image of Isis, the divine mother. And to history, she remains something between myth and memory. Tonight, the palace is quiet. Torches shimmer along corridors of alabaster. You can hear the soft shuffle of sandals as servants move through the halls, carrying trays of figs, honey, and chilled wine. Gold vessels glint in the candlelight, reflecting the slow dance of flame. The queen is seated at a low table near the window. She's dressed not in the theatrical robes of legend, but in simple linen, white, smooth, cool against the skin. Her hair is bound in dark braids, threaded with small pearls. She looks out at the harbour, where ships from Greece, Syria, and Nubia are moored side by side, and their lanterns swaying in the evening breeze. This was Cleopatra's Egypt, a world balanced delicately between two civilizations, Greek and Egyptian, ancient and modern, power and fragility. By day, she ruled with sharp intelligence, fluent in several languages, skilled in politics, economics, and science. By night, she turned her court into a sanctuary of beauty and philosophy. Here, poets debated beside scholars, astronomers watched the stars from the palace terrace, and everywhere, art flourished, the hum of a civilization at its most luminous moment. You wander quietly through the corridors, the mosaic floors beneath your feet are cool, patterned with lotus flowers and the eyes of Horus. Outside, the gardens shimmer under torchlight, reflecting pools filled with lilies, narrow paths lined with pomegranate trees. The air hums softly with the chirp of cicadas and the distant rush of the sea. But there's something else beneath that peace, an unspoken tension. For Cleopatra's Egypt, though radiant, is fading. Beyond the horizon, Rome grows restless. Her alliances with Julius Caesar and later Mark Antony have bought her time. But not safety. Empires, like tides, always rise higher than the shore that resists them. Still, Cleopatra plays her role with poise. She hosts banquets for generals, scholars, and envoys, her presence both commanding and serene. Every gesture is deliberate, every word calculated to keep Egypt free, to preserve what the pharaohs built. Imagine being there. You recline on a couch, draped in linen, watching as dancers move slowly through the room. Their anklets chime softly, in rhythm with the harp. The scent of myrrh drifts through the air. Servants pour dark red wine into crystal cups, and all around you, the faint sound of the sea, a steady, eternal whisper. Later that night, Cleopatra walks through her private garden. The moonlight glows on the marble path. She pauses beside a pool, watching her reflection ripple across the surface. For a moment she seems both woman and statue, a living echo of a civilization nearing its last breath. When dawn arrives, Rome's legions will close in. Antony will fall by his own sword, and Cleopatra, refusing humiliation, will take her final breath in the ancient way, an asp, hidden in a basket of figs, pressed to her skin. Her death will mark the end of 3,000 years of pharaonic rule. The temples will fall silent, the hieroglyphs will fade, and Egypt will pass into history. But here, in this quiet moment before the end, her world is still alive. The sea glimmers outside her window, the city hums with soft life, and in the stillness, you can almost believe it will never fade. The waves sigh against the marble once more. The torches dim, the queen's voice, soft as the tide, fades into silence. And with that, the night closes over the last of ancient Egypt.